Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you're listening live via 96.5 FM The Answer in the Little Rock, Central Arkansas metro area, or online at 96.5 FMTheAnswer.com, or if you're listening to the podcast version. Either way, I'm just glad to have you. Thanks so much. And we've got a great show today. I can't wait to introduce my guest. This dude is just cool. Cool in many ways. It is cross genre. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but incredibly articulate and entertaining on multiple subjects. So I'm really excited to introduce him to those of you who are not already familiar with him. I will do that here in a moment, right after the housekeeping notes. First of all, this is live talk radio. I love podcast and talk radio. This show is both. But if you're listening live, the call-in number is 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays, ShanePlays. Speaking of ShanePlays, this show does have a website at shaneplays.com, and the show is archived there with all kinds of other compelling content. Last week's show, I had William Bill Burkeen and comedian Michael Brown of Brain Trust on, and we had a lot of fun talking about Marvel Comics messing up yet again, and this thing in RPG games called the X card, which I took exception to. So we talked about that. Go check that out if you haven't already. It's a great show. Don't forget, this show does go out after the fact as a podcast on the blog at shaneplays.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and more other fine podcast directories. And last but never least, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. We're a week delayed on Saturdays and Mondays. The internet's 24/7 geek radio station. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. KryptonRadio.com. So check them out. That's the housekeeping notes. Got those out of the way. I wanted to, before I introduce my guest, want to say hello to a couple of people. Tom King is in the studio with me. Tom is a friend, and he's also part of my D&D group. So hello, Tom.
Hello.
Okay, and Tom is the person that brought our guest to my attention. And he always points out his videos, and I become a fan as well. So I thought that Tom might enjoy saying hello and meeting our guest, because he sends me all kinds of cool stuff from him. And then Zach, how you doing, buddy?
Good afternoon. I'm doing good.
The engineer himself, Mr. Movie Buff. Are you seeing any movies this weekend?
I'll go this weekend, but not this past one.
What are you going to see this weekend?
I got to check.
They're saying that the box office is like the worst it's been in 16 years.
It has been over the past month.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I really haven't been to the movies lately.
Just nothing grabbing you?
Yeah.
Okay. That's enough witty banter. All right, we're done with the witty banter, and I want to get right to my guest. He's standing by. It's his Saturday night in Newcastle, England, the UK. Mr. Lindybeige himself, Lloyd. Are you there, sir?
I am. Hello. Good evening or afternoon.
Yeah, good evening to you. Good afternoon for us. Thrilled to have you on. I'm not joking when I can't think of anybody else that has such a wide variety of topics on their YouTube channel and makes them so entertaining and informative. You just seem like a really cool guy. So thanks for making time. And you know, folks, if you're not familiar with Lindybeige, go right now to YouTube and type in LINDYBEIGE. It's Lindy and Beige, and subscribe. I guarantee you one of his videos is going to grab you. So I'll give a real quick kind of overview of the kind of videos you'll find. You just did a show on, or a video on putting on a show. Yeah. Just this morning, I watched how a Cyclops could see in 3D. That also managed to work in the great Harry.
I like to tackle all the vital issues of the age.
Yeah. Do men have it easier? Dunkirk and the tank battle that made it possible. 2 LARP characters who taught me about life. That was a fantastic video. Yeah. Shooting a rifle for the paintballing in tanks, playing paintball in a tank. It doesn't get any better than that.
That was a good day.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Religion of war in ancient Greece and Rome. Why do women have breasts? The topic of the age right there. That got Zach's attention. Well, Zach, go watch the video because from an evolutionary standpoint, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm just saying, go watch it. So the point is, and there's game content, there's RPG content, there's wargaming content, there's Lindy will review historical movies from a accuracy standpoint, I guess, kind of. The point is, there's a whole lot of cool stuff in this video channel, and it's incredibly entertaining. And you have over 500,000 subscribers, so congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, but it seems that in terms of subject matter, I'm still yet to find my niche.
Your niche. Well, I think your niche is not having a niche, personally, for me. That's one of the things I like about your channel. But I do understand from a marketing standpoint, you want to have that niche that, you want to do that one video type and do it well. But I'm glad that you're a little bit all over the place personally. How about you, Tom? Do you like that range of videos?
I love the range.
Yeah. So anyway, we like it. So that's all I can say, but I'm not paying your bills. So maybe you might have to take a different tack in the future. Shooting to kill. How many men can do this? I mean, fire arrows. Yeah, I hear you have a bit of an exception with fire arrows. Would you like to tell us about that?
Fire arrows are used in the movies all the time because they look good. At least people who don't stop and think about the practicality of them think that they look good. But once you do stop to think about the practicality of them, they don't really make a great deal of sense. If you watch the video, I do make clear that they did exist, but the idea that they were the standard arrow used in battles is a bit daft.
Yeah, but directors just love that when the line of arrows grows up with the flames on it. So I hear that you
like laser guns.
What's that?
They look like laser guns.
Yeah, they look fantastic. I hear that you also have nothing but admiration for Hollywood's Foley efforts when it comes to such thing as drawing a sword.
Yes, it's really I think it's perhaps most noticeable when someone picks up a small knife. or even just sort of moves a small knife through the air, and it still manages to make this whing noise, which I've never heard an actual knife make.
Yeah, but boy, it sure does sound cool. Or when you hear the bullets go, the guy who hears the bullet that kills him, bang, and then he stiffens up and falls over. Yeah, in the middle of a big battle. Well, let me back up a little bit now that I've introduced you. How would if somebody doesn't know what you do or know about your channel and you have the chance to corner them in an elevator and harangue them about what you do, how would you describe what you do?
I have actually got a business card printed. I'm just going to read what it says on my business card. It says, Lindybeige, because beige is its own reward. A video channel of archaeology, history, warfare through the ages, opinionated waffle, evolution, swing dance, illustrated movie inauthenticity, occasional daftitude, and whatever else seems fitting.
Whatever strikes your fancy at that particular moment. So I'll tell you what we're going to do now that we've kind of introduced you. I do want to have a deeper conversation about what you do. And all joking aside, I'm fascinated about how much, how did you get into this and how much of your life does it eat up and, all of that. But we're going to do a super brief news segment. And I picked out a very British news article just to celebrate you being on. So, Zach, turn on the microphone in the super secret newsroom. Oh, there they go, working on Saturday. Hard working. Sal's in there with a fedora on, and he's got a little press pass sticking out of his band. But, folks, don't forget, for every $1 of Patreon support that the show gets, the news team gets a penny an hour raise. So it is a win-win. All right, so here's what I felt was a very British article to celebrate Lindybeige being on today. Did you hear about this, Lloyd? Terry Pratchett's unfinished novels were destroyed by a steamroller.
Yes, he left it in his will. That was the particular way he wanted it done.
Yeah,
thorough.
And I love that. So that feels both very British to me and very Pratchett, to be quite honest. Did you know about that, Tom? Had you seen that article?
I hadn't seen that.
So he had shared with Neil Gaiman or Gaiman. How do you, I get corrected every time I say Neil Gaiman? How do you say it, Lloyd?
I think I normally hear people say Gaiman.
Gaiman? Okay. Well, I think I said Gaiman when, I don't know. I always seem to get corrected when I say, I'll just say Neil G. Mr. Neil G. But he said that, Terry had shared that after he died, he wanted his remaining unfinished works on the on his hard drive to be steamrollered. And so they were just recently, the hard drive was crushed by a vintage John Fowler and Company steamroller named, get ready for this, Lord Jericho at the Great Dorset Steam Fair, ahead of the opening of a new exhibition about the author's life and work. And of course, if people don't know who Terry Pratchett is, he was best known for the Discworld series, which was both excellent writing and also incredibly humorous and satirical. And he died March 2015 after a long battle with Alzheimer's. And fellow fantasy author Neil Gaiman, who they wrote Good Omens together, which is about to premiere as a TV series, or it's being cast right now to be filmed. He told the Times that Pratchett had wanted whatever he was working on at the time of his death to be taken out along with his computers, to be put in the middle of a road for a steamroller to steamroller over them all. So that's very Pratchett. You know, I hate that we lost him, but I'm glad we got the books that we did get. Have you read much Pratchett, Tom? Are you?
A little bit, but not much.
Well, he also evidently towards the end of his life was kind of an advocate for assisted dying. So I just found that out, you know, reading this. So what about you, Lloyd? Are you a Pratchett fan?
I think fan would be an exaggeration. I have read a number of his books, and he was certainly a very, very good gag writer.
Yeah.
Personally, I think he was a much better gag writer than he was an author.
Right.
So you would have on a page, he would build up the atmosphere of this fantasy world with dragons and magic and danger and all the rest of it. And then a pizza deliveryman would turn up at the door or whatever, and it would pop the balloon, and it'd be a good gag.
Right. But in
the middle of a novel, you've then got to build everything back up again.
Right.
And he was popping the balloon like 3 times a page.
Right.
Oh dear, here I'm. I think they're going to be Terry Pratchett fans angry with me now.
Yeah.
I understand that loads of people like his stuff, but
well, send the hate mail to Tom King 113 at gmail.com. What's your email address, Tom? You love Lloyd. You'll take his hate mail, won't you? No, you won't. I thought you loved Lindybeige, Tom. All right. Anyway,
I've blown it. It's all over.
All right. So I have to ask you, when you pass away, goodness forbid, do you want
to happen eventually?
Do you want your unfinished videos to be not steamrolled, but to run over by a World War II tank? Because that seems more appropriate for your channel.
I would go for a tank. Although steamrollers are more thorough because there are no gaps between the treads.
Right.
But I suppose you could always make several passes with a variety of tanks and then turn them all sideways and repeat. So yeah, I'm sure you get there eventually.
Well, go ahead.
Yes, it's an interesting question, the one which I've given no thought to hitherto. I suppose that yes, if I do have unfinished stuff that could be finished that's any good, it might conceivably extend my legacy. It'd be slightly embarrassing if the stuff that was made posthumously turned out to be better than stuff that was made during my life. But then if it was, then hooray for the rest of humanity. So
right.
I could, I suppose, secretly wish that the posthumous stuff is rubbish.
Right.
So that people will realize just how difficult it is to make a Lindybeige video.
And that's one of the questions that I'm going to get to momentarily is, what goes into, because any well done video seems breezy, but there's a lot of work behind it. I did want to point out, if you go to, I've got this article from The Guardian talking about, it says Terry Pratchett's unfinished novels destroyed by steamroller. Actually, if you look at the before and after picture of the hard drive, there's a disappointing lack of complete smush. I mean, they're beat up, but they're not completely, they're not like if you put a penny on the railroad track smushed. I would,
right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, they're demolished. So, okay. Now we'll move on into the, the discussion, the questions. Let me get a little bit more professional here. I have my first question for you here. And today, I don't know if you know this or not. I know the world news is dire at the moment, so it probably overshadowed this, but there's an official calendar holiday today, and it's called Help a Frantically Curious American Day. So, yeah, in the spirit of that, Could you share with me, as a frantically curious American, what exactly does Lindybeige mean?
Right. Lindybeige was a very happy accident. When I registered for YouTube, just so that I could do the usual stuff, comment on people's videos and so forth, it said you need a username. And it said the instructions back then were pick something that'll be easy to remember, like your hobby and your favorite color. So, okay, Lindybeige. I had absolutely no notion at that stage that would become a channel name in the future. So when you register, your channel name is your username.
Right.
But I didn't even know what a channel was. Indeed, the use of the word channel would have been alien to me in that context. So,
right.
So I just typed in my username, and I'm very happy that I did now, because I've got this, I've got a channel name that is very distinctive. It's not going to be confused for anyone else's. It's sort of friendly sounding. It's got a color which has a brand aid. Lindy sounds sort of active and friendly, and it doesn't tie me down to any one particular subject matter. If I'd call myself the Tank Channel or something, then if I put anything on Lindy Hop, then I would have a lot of disappointed tankers. But instead, there's nothing in the name that commits me to any particular subject matter.
Well, there you go. So I didn't even know the Lindy Hop. Am I correct in understanding that you've taught dance, or that's one of your interests?
Yes, for over a decade, I was a Lindy Hop teacher, which is a 1930s swing dance that started originally in places like Harlem in the ballrooms, and was danced through from about 1927 is when it got its name, and it was danced through the 30s and 40s, and started dying out in the 50s. And then it got revived in Acton in West London, in Stockholm in Sweden, and almost simultaneously in California.
Wow. Okay. So I didn't even know Lindy. I've heard of the Lindy Hop before, but I didn't even make that connection in reference to the name, to your name. So that's actually really cool. So you taught that for 10 years?
It's a bit more than 10 years, and still do very occasionally.
Okay. Well, that's pretty neat. So I had no idea. Wow. So how did you teach? I mean, was that your full-time thing, or were you just doing that on the side, or can you make a living doing that?
It was my main source of income. I won't say that I was exactly run off my feet with bookings, though. I was just scraping by.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been there before. So, well, that's cool. All right. Well, I have one other question for you, and then we'll cut to a break. And when we come back, I want to get into like how this snowballed to not even knowing what a channel is to what you're doing now. And is it your full thing? Is this your main living and all of that? But if you had to choose, Lloyd, is it Lloyd Nicholas or is it Nicholas Lloyd? What is your actual?
On my birth certificate, my Lloyd is definitely my surname, but most people just
refer to you as Lloyd
for most of my life.
Okay,
but
all
it's
right.
Okay.
All right. So, if you had to choose, you have to choose. Would you rather end someone rightly with a pommel or with a pummel?
I think pummel, even though, you see, the thing with a pummel is you could hurt your hand. But, I think that if I'm trying to end someone rightly, and I think the satisfaction of just body on body, fist to face contact, I don't think you can really beat that.
Yeah. Where do you personally land? Because there's the big raging debate over this ending somebody rightly with a pommel. I know that Scalagrim, I guess, kicked this off a few years ago, and there's a lot of other YouTubers have chimed in. Where do you land on this ending someone rightly with a pommel debate?
Is there really a controversy? I mean,
I don't know if it's a controversy, but there seems to be a lot of discussion about it and whether it's a joke or a real thing.
It's a gag which has ended up in the comments of my videos for several years now, even though it actually started on, you're quite right, Scalagrim's channel.
Yeah.
Yes, in one of the treatises, it talks about how you could take the pommel off your sword and just throw it at the opposition. The chances of your ending someone by hitting them with the pommel, I think, are pretty slim.
Right.
So if I were you, if you've got a sword to take a pommel off, I would say you're probably better off normally hitting him with the sword, because they're actually designed for that.
Yeah. Strangely enough, yeah. You actually have the sword. Why not? But yeah, it's just, I see all these. No, it's obviously a joke. No, it's not. It's a real maneuver. And the latest, I guess, Scalagram put out an updated video saying, well, now that I've looked at it, I think it might actually be a real thing. So I don't know. But from a geeky standpoint, I love the geeky discussions that people have about that kind of thing. It warms my heart that people get, so into discussing this kind of stuff. So,
well, you could make it. What are they called? Feats or something in D&D? We still have feats in. What is it now? Fifth edition.
Yeah.
So there's the end rightly feat, or if you really want to put that in, you can.
Yeah. We'll do that. All right. Well, I'm gonna take a quick break so we can pay the bills. When we come back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, we'll be talking further with Lloyd, aka Lindybeige, the most, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, the most interesting YouTuber of his type that I know of. But and I'm kind of lumping that in with the medieval kind of
his type narrows the range quite a bit.
No, you're right. People need to go out and look for Lindybeige, folks, and sign up for the channel. There's got to be
YouTubers named after a 1930s dance and a shade of pale brown.
The best.
I'm the best.
I'll tell you, Lloyd. Out of all the people I've talked to on the radio, you are one of them. I just want to make that very clear. So, all right, I'm going to take us to a short break to pay the bills. When we come back, we'll have more of Lloyd, aka Lindybeige.
The smell of mildew emanates from wet stone walls. The only choices before you are to enter the door to the north or travel back up the stairs from whence you came.
Okay. I go to the door to the north.
In this room you encounter an event promoter.
Arkansas RPG Con is the Arkansas convention for all tabletop role-playing games. Arkansas RPG Con will be held on Saturday, October 21st at the Gene Moss Building, located at 913 East Sevier Street in Benton, Arkansas. Early bird tickets are just $7, so visit arpgcon.com for all the details about Arkansas RPG Con. Okay. Well, I guess I go to Arkansas RPG Con.
Yeah, that does sound pretty fun.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks, joined by my personal friend and part of my D&D group, Tom King. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
And we've also got just a really, really cool guy who does these really cool, interesting YouTube videos of a wide variety of subjects. He's got a quick wit and a dry humor. Lloyd, a.k.a. Lindybeige. Thanks again for being on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, okay. So I wanted to, actually, just in case people are curious about this kind of thing, I wanted to make sure, because I'm curious, how did you go from not knowing really anything about YouTube to the wildly successful sex symbol YouTube star that you are now? How did that happen? How did that domino snowball?
Twice I've been called cool on your show, and now I'm a sex symbol.
Total. Yeah.
Really, I stand in for the entirety of my sex. This is quite bizarre. Anyone who knew me at school would be laughing to think that I'm having the word cool applied to me.
Well, that just shows what they know.
Right. Well, I was trying to break into television and film unsuccessfully for years. And as part of this, I made a pilot using my own money called Built for the Stone Age for a series that I had an idea for about human evolution. And the television companies were always asking for groundbreaking new television genres. But the trouble is that if you actually gave them a groundbreaking new television genre, they would say, oh, no, there's no such genre as that. Anyway, so I made a pilot with my own money. Loads of people said I was mad. And everyone I showed it to said, hey, that's really good. Can I produce it? Can I direct it? Can I be the cameraman? Can I whatever? But I could not get any commissioners to watch it because I'm not famous. And after 8 years of trying to get a commissioner to watch it, I just gave up. But then YouTube came along in 2005. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll just stick it on YouTube and maybe someone else will see it and pick it up and run with it. And if so, great. And so I had to buy a new computer because my computer then wasn't capable of YouTubery. And I uploaded it, Built for the Stone Age. It's still there. It's one of the first things I ever uploaded. No one has yet picked it up, unfortunately. A couple of people have said that they would, but that's media folk for you. They say one thing and then nothing happens. But they tell you how tremendously excited they are by the project. Yeah. Because that's media folk. And yes, so that was why I started the channel in the first place. And while I was at it, I uploaded a few videos of me just talking about swords and stuff. And 5 years later, one of those went viral. You've already alluded to it. It's the one about the noise that swords don't make on being drawn from their scabbards. So there you go. So that's how to make a viral video. You upload it and you wait 5 years, and then someone starts discussing it on the front page of Reddit, and
then boom,
blam. So in one day I had 12,000 subscribers, and and so then the next day I was the Swords channel.
Yeah. Well, so you just suddenly became the Swords channel. So
yeah, and at the time, no one else was doing swords. So I really, if you wanted to learn about swords, I was the only channel pretty much on YouTube.
Well, it seems to have become sort of a subgenre. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing it now. You know, there's a varying quality. Some are quite good, some are not. But so you were one of the first, if not the first, out there doing it.
I'm unaware of anyone else doing it in, say, the first year or so that I was doing what I was doing, and YouTube cross-references a lot, so I think I would be aware if someone else had been doing anything similar.
Okay, see, I wasn't even aware of that.
So my audience had been 65% male, and the next day it was 93% male. And I thought, well, it'll normalize, it'll go back to 65, which I felt for my sort of, the feel of my channel, I felt was about right. But no, I'd gone past the tipping point, and it did actually go past 99% at one point. But it seems to have stabilized now at 97% male.
Swords.
Which is a shame, in a way, because you say I'm this sex symbol now, but if I am such a sex symbol, it'd be nice to have slightly more than 3% of my viewers being female.
Well, the ones that are there are dedicated about it. So, all right. So
Okay.
so you suddenly you posted a video, promptly somewhat forgot about it. 5 years later, Reddit found you. Suddenly you're the sword guy, and you've got all these dudes flocking to your channel. Where did you take it from there? What happened next?
Well, I then biased my subject matter towards swords and axes and stuff for a while, but I didn't want to be just the swords channel. So I would still put in the occasional other video. And I've kept that up. I mean, the number of policy decisions I made quite early, I've stuck to, one being not to actually just do the same topic all the time. And another policy that I'm very glad now that I've stuck to is to leave all the mistakes in. So when I get something wrong, I just leave it in the video and I post up a little caption on the screen saying, "Whoops, that date's wrong," and I correct it with a title and if I stumble on my words, I just let myself stumble. And if I digress horribly and forget completely what I was talking about, and then take 5 minutes to come back to what I was talking about, I leave that in too.
Well, and I have to say, that's some of my favorite stuff about your videos is when you just go off on a rip on some tangent, and then 2 or 3 minutes later, you realize that you've completely gone over the cliff and you start trying to bring yourself back to your original topic. Some of that to me is the most engaging comment or contents when you just let yourself go.
Yes, it is occasionally embarrassing to me. I was quite shocked actually by how much I say and in my videos. I thought I was far more articulate than it turns out I am, but there you go.
You could do a video on that, on why do psychologically we say and There you go. You don't even have to give me royalties on that idea.
You're very generous.
Well, thank you. So anyway, so you started making crazy videos, of a wild or a wide variety of topics. Other than swords, do you have another topic that seems to generate the next best amount of interest? What, tanks or role-playing game content, or
tanks do pretty well. Essentially, military stuff does pretty consistently well. But I do have the occasional surprise hit. I did once do a video about dyeing shirts beige, and I was so worried about upsetting my core demographic by that I made another video about axes and uploaded it the same day to keep them happy.
Right.
But then, to my surprise, it's a more minor hit now. But at the time, it was a major hit by my standards.
On dyeing a shirt brown or beige.
About dyeing shades beige, yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said in it was, I don't expect anyone else to be doing this. And the next day, I got I don't know, about 8, I think, photographs sent in to me from guys who had dyed a shirt beige and cut the pointy bits off the collar.
Well, that's another thing I was going to ask you about. I read somewhere that you actually alter your shirts for that distinctive collar effect. Is that true, or is that alternative facts, or did you actually?
No. I'm unaware that they're available in the shops.
Okay.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, yeah, you buy that sort of shirt." No, no, I make this sort of shirt. This sort of shirt doesn't exist in the shops yet.
That's right. Pretty soon there'll be the Lindybeige line.
Yeah, and then I'll be a fashion icon. As a cool sex symbol.
Yeah. You'll be a cool sex symbol YouTuber fashion icon and dance instructor. Yeah, it's amazing. So now on your role-playing game or your game content, that's where I started becoming aware of your channel, is because Tom was sending me videos of, hey, you should watch this, because I DM the group and he knows I like role-playing game stuff. And so how much, like, are you still an active gamer, or are you kind of calling on, past?
Yeah. I'm still active. I was more active in the past, but yes, I don't know, about once a fortnight, perhaps I'll do some role play gaming, and
That's pretty active.
Have for the last couple of years been one of the referees at the student national competitions in Britain, which is university based.
What is that? Is that like refereed role playing? What is that exactly?
It's lots of things, but I was taking part in refereed role playing. So I would take in a group of, let's say, 6, and we would play a scenario, and then the next day I'd have a different group. We'd play a scenario, repeat, and then with the other referees in my category, and we passed all the players between us. We would then have a meeting and decide which role players we thought were the best, and then first, second, and third would get a prize.
So now, is this live action role playing? Is this tabletop rolling the dice role playing? What are we talking about?
They do live action at the event, but I don't know if that's a competition or not. But no, this is tabletop, and so far at that particular event I've always used Hillfolk.
And I want to talk to you about Hillfolk, because that is my personal favorite video of yours I've ever watched. That got me extremely intrigued by this Hillfolk thing. And I loved how you used Breaking Bad, and you used the characters from Breaking Bad to kind of explain how you would come up with characters for Hillfolk. Are you getting to play that? I mean, do you have any future plans to do any more discussion of Hillfolk or this system? Because it's actually the system behind Hillfolk that's fascinating to me, maybe not necessarily the Hillfolk game itself and the setting. Are you doing anything more with that?
The setting and the name are both, I think, awful.
Right.
I think they really shot themselves in the foot calling it Hillfolk. They should have called it Drama System, which is pretty much the same thing, and they also, I think, own the rights to that. So why didn't they just call it Drama System? But anyway, yes, it's a role-play gaming system which puts emphasis on the relationships between the characters, and rather than the sort of the game of Ludo where you have a dungeon crawl and you're all in the same room and you kill the monster, nick the treasure. It's much more like a long-running television series where you have scenes that may be days, weeks, even years apart, and it's all to do with changing the relationships between the central characters. And you have very few scenes usually involving all the characters. It's usually just 2- and 3-handers.
It sounds to me like there's this Fate role-playing system out there. It sounds to me like that the drama system was what Fate thinks it wants to be, because Fate is supposed to be very narrative-driven. But then when I talk to people about it, it sounds a little bit more crunchier than I expect. But this sounds really amazing. I'd like to try it out sometime. So, but yeah, you totally introduced me to that. In fact, that was one of the videos that Tom sent to me. And I was like, drama? No, I'm a role player. I don't care about drama. I want the dice and the rules, and I want to stabby. And then I watched that video, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So you used a term a second ago I'm unfamiliar with. You said Ludo. What does that mean?
Oh, Ludo. It's a game. I think it exists in the States, but I think you call it something else. It's a very simple kids game. You roll dice and you move little counters around a track, and it's a sort of a racing game.
Oh, okay.
And it does. Yes, I'd forgotten that in the States it goes by another name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I'd have to go.
I know that we call Clue. You call Cluedo. So let's see if I can find Ludo. So yeah, I lived in England for a couple of years, and it's just the little things like we call Frosted Flakes, and y'all have Frosties and that sort of thing. It's just, there it is, Ludo. Yeah, okay. That looks like, yeah, okay. I see the board. Yeah, okay.
It's a very simple kids game. You land on someone else's piece, and they go back to the start. And there are very few rules.
It looks very much like a game we have called Trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but it looks very, very, very similar. So,
and that's what I find that a dungeon crawl is. I mean, I remember my very first ever dungeon crawl. It was great. With it's like opening the box and there's a monster, and you fight the monster, and it was like no other game I'd played. But it very quickly becomes silly. Why are there all these monsters?
Right.
Just waiting for adventurers to come in, all in rooms right next to each other, all these hostile monsters. Yeah. What do they actually live on? How do they feed? Where are the lavatories? And why do they all accumulate gold just in order to attract adventurers to come in and kill them for it?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. And there's still a part of me that likes an occasional kick in the doors dungeon crawl just for the fun of it. But I think, I've thought about that a lot. I think a lot of, especially people that begin role-playing, in their 10, 11, 12, 13 or whatever, like many of us did and I guess still do, it's very much a power fantasy, right? I'm going to kill you. I'm big and tough and I get the loot. But then I guess we, as we grow, that doesn't appeal, and we want more of a satisfying, story or whatever. What do you think, Tom? Would you agree with that?
Exactly that. The murder hobos are basically the young kids, and as you grow older, you really want a story and there a reason behind
why
everything.
Is this happening? Yeah. And I still, for a one shot or for a short adventure, I still have no problem with a murder hobo. Let's just kill some stuff and have some fun. But for, an ongoing thing, it's not as appealing, I think, as we get older as it was. I've got to do one more break, and then we'll be back. And what I'd like to do, Lloyd, is talk about your steampunk video series and, the graphic novel you've kickstarted, any other projects you want to highlight or anything like that. So, but we'll be back. I'm going to give a sponsor some love, and then we'll cut to a break, and then we'll come back and finish off with Lloyd, aka Lindybeige, who is defies categorization, really, Tom. Just defies categorization. Yes. So so some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. That's 501-224-GAME or gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees. I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers. You could do this if you feel like hopping a plane, Lloyd, and coming all the way to Little Rock, Arkansas. If you go to Game Goblins and mention Shane Plays, you can receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. I just want you to know that.
$10 off my first purchase of $50 or more.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know if they carry hill folk or not, but they might. I'll look next time I'm there. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. We've got Lloyd, a.k.a. Lindybeige, a.k.a. Lindy, setting on the line via Skype, via the magic of electrons and technology. He's all the way from the United Kingdom. He's in Newcastle in England. So, I mentioned to you, we were chatting or IMing or whatever before the show. I lived in Bedford for a couple of years. Are you born and raised Newcastle, or are you a Newcastle lad, as it were?
I wasn't born here, no, but I've spent most of my life here. And my mother's mother was born very near Bedford.
Oh, okay.
Which is
very
slightly interesting.
Well, I had no idea of the history of Bedford. I was in the American Air Force. I was stationed at RAF Chicksands, which was just outside of Bedford. That base has since been closed. And I'd go into Bedford all the time, and I had no idea of the history there related to John Bunyan and the Pilgrim's Progress. He wrote that while he was in jail in Bedford, and there was like a statue and everything, and I had no idea. So anyway, I enjoyed very much living in England. So, and speaking of Newcastle, I used to enjoy a Newcastle Brown Ale on occasion. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's from my perspective, it's like, this is good, but maybe somebody who lives in England was like, nah, that's not good. That's rubbish or whatever.
For a long time, it was one of the better exported beers. And you could actually, I think, buy it in the USA.
I did find it here, but it didn't taste the same.
Oh, okay. But in the USA now, there are actually some quite good microbreweries producing some actual, some proper, what the Americans call ale.
Right. No, there's been an explosion in that here in the States over the past 10 or 20 years.
I was really surprised at how good it was in an ordinary supermarket and how cheap. And I found out the inebriate's way. How strong? Because the beer over here is typically 3.5 to 4.5%.
Yeah.
Whereas the ales that they were selling in supermarkets were like 8-9%. And yes, I had a few bottles of beer and thought, hang on, I don't normally feel this drunk.
Yeah, you're like, I've had a couple. Yeah. So
yeah, it's only then that I read the label. Oh.
Yeah. Like this is a bit. Well, what's funny? First of all, I'll get to a minor historical fact here that I think you'll appreciate given your videos. But when I lived in the UK, I'm trying to find out, do I score points or lose points for this? Because we used to call Newcastle Brown Ale Nuki Brown. Do I win points or lose points for that? Is that cool slang or was that bad?
People are aware that it's called Nuki Brown, but almost nobody calls it that. It's also people are aware that it's referred to as dog as well. That's one of its many names.
I didn't know that.
I've never actually heard anyone call it dog in all seriousness, though.
I got you. Well, I've also since I left England, I've never had or run into anywhere serving a snake bite in black. So that was one of the first drinks I ever had in England.
Oh
yeah.
Oh dear. Okay, that's right. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of had a night kind of like you. Yeah, I kind of had a night kind of like you did with your American beer or American ale. Now, what's interesting is up until the last 10 or 20 years, if you said beer in America, what you really meant was a lager. And and it was actually quite weak because when they set the average alcohol percentage for American lager, they did it during World War II. And who was drinking most of the beer during World War II in America? Women, because the men were gone. So they did it based on a woman's tolerance for alcohol and not a man, evidently. So for years and years and years, we've had relatively weak lager, but now that the ale explosion has happened or whatever, that's changed quite a bit. So
yes, trying to explain a shandy is always difficult.
I couldn't even tell you what is a shandy.
Okay, shandy is beer and lemonade, and you say that to an American, and he says, "Blah." But the thing is that what Americans call, or at least called beer, wasn't beer, and what the British called lemonade isn't lemonade. Today, when in Britain, if you say lemonade, meaning actual lemonade made with actual lemons, that stuff, we are reduced to calling that real lemonade. And if you just say lemonade, it's really just fizzy pop.
Fizzy, okay, it's a fizzy drink.
It's something similar to Sprite or 7-Up.
It's that old, the languages are similar but not exact. They'll trip you up every time. So anyway. Yeah. Well, So tell us about your steampunk thing.
I, many years ago, decided to write a script with a friend of mine called Fraser Charlton. And so I went round to his house and we sat down and we decided, write what you know. So what did we know? Well, he'd done an awful lot of Gilbert and Sullivan stuff. And so he knew his Victoriana and I knew my sci-fi. So we decided, how about a Victorian sci-fi? The term steampunk, I don't think had been coined at the time. And so we wrote a Victorian sci-fi. And it was called The Adventures of Stoke Mandeville, Astronaut and Gentleman, a tale of science and heroism for all the family except ladies. And we did it as a radio series because in the world's #1 patron of new English language drama is Radio 4, the BBC Radio 4, which does 2 plays a day. So it gets through a huge amount of material. And so if you wanted to get something produced professionally, that was a way to go. Write it for the radio. And besides, making stuff for the radio is a heck of a lot cheaper than making a movie. So, yes. So that's what we did. And it got nowhere. Same thing. We weren't famous, so we couldn't get anyone at the BBC to listen to it. So then years later, we adapted it for the stage and we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe and it went very well. But it didn't take off. It wasn't picked up by any producers. So I decided, now that I've got this YouTube channel, this is several years later, of course, I'll do the movie. I'll do it in installments. And so I spent a week, a very, very long week. I was working about 14 hours a day on my feet, directing and appearing in, I was doing it all green screen. I was going to do it animated, but then I thought, you know what? I know I'll never finish it if I do it animated. If I just shoot the whole thing in 1 week with actors, then it'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I then discovered that it took me 3 months to do all the post-prod on every episode, because every single shot is an effects shot. And I had to teach myself 3D design, which from scratch, I knew nothing about it. And then 3D animation, and just as hard, the sort of the bridge between 3D design and 3D animation, which I didn't even know was a thing, but the sort of, I don't know, preparing the 3D design so that you can then animate it, and is quite technically difficult, or at least I found it difficult.
Yep.
So I did the first 3 episodes, and I just so want to get back to it, but I can't afford 3 months shouting at a computer, why don't you just do what I'm telling you to do, to get an episode out. I don't know what's going to happen. Will I get rich enough to afford to pay someone else to design the backgrounds and
well,
stuff?
have you?
I don't know.
I mean, has the reception to the YouTube videos been good?
No.
Oh no.
It was they are some of my least watched videos. And there is a strong inverse relationship between how much work goes into a video and how many people watch it.
No, I hear you.
If I just stand up and talk about spears for 10 minutes to a camera, people will watch it. If I spend months doing animation and 3D design, people don't want to know.
It's strange. I do some YouTube work, nothing on the level of you do, and I can put 20 hours into a video, and some people will watch it. My highest ranked videos, I turned on the camera completely unprepared and just ranted for 7 minutes about Marvel Comics and turned it back off, and it exploded. So it's just, you can't win. But well, listen, I've got to draw the show to a close. We got about a minute left.
All right,
folks, if you're listening and if you haven't already, go subscribe to Lindybeige on YouTube. I guarantee you that he's got some entertaining stuff that you want to listen to. If you like this show, Shane Plays, and I guarantee you that that there will be something in the Lindybeige that you like. We need to support people like Lloyd for going outside of the box and doing really interesting stuff. So, all joking aside, I think you're a heck of a guy, Lloyd, and I hope you keep it up. So,
thank you very much. I'm going to go back to work now on my graphic novel, In Search of Hannibal, which you can still pre-order today.
All right, In Search of Hannibal, you can still pre-order today. I think you kickstarted that, if I understand right. So
yes,
looking forward to seeing that come out. I got to get us done here in about 20 seconds. It's the dreaded bad joke of the week. Are you ready, Lloyd?
Oh,
are you ready?
Okay, I'm sitting down. I'm braced.
All right. How much does a pirate pay for corn?
I don't know. How much does a pirate pay for corn?
A buccaneer.
That's very good.
It's terrible. Hey, I wish I had more time with you. It's been a real pleasure. Enjoy working on your graphic novel, and I look forward to your future videos to come.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.
And here's my point. Swords on being drawn don't go they just don't. And why would anyone want their sword to go on being drawn? You just tell everyone within quite some distance that you're drawing your weapon. That's to your disadvantage, surely. You'd want to draw stealthily if you could. And how would it make that noise? You'd actually have to have metal grinding against metal. They didn't go shing. But they do in Hollywood movies. Yes. Oh, for goodness sake. Hollywood, pull yourself together.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.